What if I told you that jewels can spin a tale far more dramatic than any novel? A saga of love and betrayal, of glittering royal courts and the bitter sting of exile, of a masterpiece's birth and its whispered disappearance. Today, we're prying open the jewelry box of one of the 20th century's most elegant monarchs to trace the fate of a treasure that witnessed it all: passion, tears, and ultimately, oblivion. In the realm of haute joaillerie, legends truly exist. These aren't merely creations of gold and stone, they are silent witnesses to history, custodians of the secrets held by their crowned owners. They absorb emotions, reflecting the dazzling glow of ballrooms and the murky shadows of palace intrigues. Their destinies are sometimes as winding and unpredictable as those of the people whose heads and necks they once graced. We're about to delve into the saga of Queen Victoria Eugenie of Spain, a woman whose name became synonymous with exquisite taste and whose jewelry collection was the envy of all Europe. Yet, amidst the dazzling array of celebrated diamonds, pearls, and emeralds that still adorn her descendants today, the trail of one utterly unique piece has vanished, a turquoise parure whose story is replete with brilliance, mystery, and inexplicable metamorphoses. Our story commences at the dawn of the 20th century, during an era famously known as the Belle Époque, or Beautiful Age. It was a time of unparalleled luxury, astonishing technological advancement, and a dazzling aristocratic life. At the heart of our narrative stands young Princess Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg, granddaughter of the formidable British Queen Victoria. A German princess with an English upbringing, known within her family circle as Ina, she possessed a classical Nordic beauty: fair hair, blue eyes, and porcelain skin. Fate had destined her for a brilliant yet ultimately tragic role: to become Queen of Spain, marrying the young and charismatic King Alfonso XIII. From its very inception, their union was shrouded in an aura of romance and grand politics. Yet, few truly knew that beneath the facade of a royal fairy tale lay deep-seated contradictions. Alfonso was a passionate, impulsive southerner. Ina, reserved and steeped in the rigid traditions of the Victorian court. But most significantly, Ina was a carrier of the hemophilia gene, the royal disease, which, unbeknownst to her, she would pass on to her sons. This inheritance would become a wellspring of profound personal tragedy and cast a long shadow over her marriage. The wedding, held on May 31st, 1906 in Madrid, was meant to be a triumph. Instead, it devolved into a nightmare. As the wedding procession made its way from the church back to the royal palace, an anarchist named Mateo Moral hurled a bomb concealed within a bouquet of flowers from a balcony. The blast claimed the lives of dozens of people, spattering the young queen's pristine white wedding gown with blood. Ina and Alfonso miraculously survived. This horrific day became an ominous harbinger for both their reign and their personal lives. But as the horror receded, a wave of widespread sympathy and, naturally, gifts swept in to replace it. By tradition, the newly crowned queen was literally showered with treasures, destined to form the bedrock of her personal jewelry collection. Among hundreds of impressive offerings from aristocrats and monarchs across Europe, one truly regal gift stood out. It came from the bride's closest relatives, her uncle and aunt, King Edward VII of Great Britain and Queen Alexandra. It was a magnificent demi-parure, a set comprising a necklace and earrings, crafted from diamonds and rare sky-blue Persian turquoise. The choice of stone was far from accidental. Turquoise, especially when paired with diamonds, was at the height of fashion during the Edwardian era. It symbolized happiness, good fortune, and marital prosperity. Moreover, its delicate hue perfectly complemented the young queen's complexion, accentuating the blueness of her eyes and the golden tint of her hair. The necklace presented an elegant garland of diamond scrolls and floral motifs, from whose center hung large, teardrop-shaped turquoise cabochons encircled by diamond pavés. The earrings echoed this motif in miniature, creating a complete and harmonious ensemble. This gift was more than just a jewel. It was a potent symbol of the Spanish crown's connection to the mighty British Empire. But as exquisite as this set was, it lacked the crowning jewel for a monarch's ensemble, a tiara. King Alfonso XIII himself decided to fill this void. In their first year of marriage, eager to delight his young wife and showcase the Spanish crown's generosity, he resolved to complement the British gift. The commission was placed with the country's premier jeweler, the Madrid firm of Anserina, official purveyor to the royal court. Their name was a guarantee of the highest quality and impeccable taste. The jewelers faced the challenge of creating a crown that would not merely match the existing necklace and earrings, but would surpass them in its majesty and originality. The master artisans at Anserina created something truly unique. This was no mere diadem, but a full tiara crown, designed as a closed circle, allowing it to be worn like a circlet that completely embraced the wearer's hairstyle. Such a design, reminiscent of a Russian kokoshnik, was extraordinarily popular in the early 20th century and was adored by Ina's aunt, Queen Alexandra. The tiara's foundation was crafted from platinum, a new, fashionable, and incredibly strong metal that allowed for light, airy constructions and perfectly enhanced the diamond's brilliance. The structure of the crown consisted of a series of openwork, lozenge-shaped arches entirely encrusted with old-cut diamonds that shimmered and sparkled with every movement. Each arch was topped by a large, perfectly spherical turquoise cabochon orb. And above them, like stars in the night sky, diamond stars seemed to float, mounted on the most delicate tremblant settings. This technical marvel caused the stars to quiver and shimmer with the slightest movement, creating the illusion of a living, pulsating light around the Queen's head. This was not just a piece of jewelry, it was an architectural marvel in miniature, a symphony of platinum, diamonds, and celestial turquoise. Queen Victoria Eugenie was first captured wearing this tiara in an official photographic portrait in 1914. From that moment on, the turquoise parure became one of her absolute favorites. She appeared in it at state receptions, official visits, and charity galas. The press never tired of marveling at how perfectly these jewels suited the Queen. Newspapers of the era wrote, "The blue stones harmonize with the Queen's blonde beauty," idealizing her, imparting something ethereal, angelic to her appearance. Another report noted, Queen Victoria shone with beauty. Her light hair, styled in an elaborate updo, formed a natural crown, and like a golden cloud, it receded behind the contour of her face, which was crowned by a magnificent tiara of turquoise and diamonds. Spanish artist Modesto Teixidor Torres immortalized the Queen in the turquoise parure in one of his grand portraits, where the cool luster of the stones contrasts with the monarch's warm, slightly melancholic gaze. It was during this period that the courtly gossip, which forever linked Victoria Eugenie's jewels to her husband's infidelity, took root. Rumor had it that the amorous Alfonso XIII, whose extramarital affairs were no secret to the court, would present his wife with a new piece of jewelry as a fine or apology after each liaison. The Queen, being a proud woman with a fervent love for adornments, allegedly accepted these gifts, transforming her pain and humiliation into the dazzling brilliance of diamonds. Court ladies whispered that her jewelry collection grew in direct proportion to the number of royal dalliances. Of course, this is nothing more than a juicy legend. There were scarcely enough diamond mines in the world to cover all the Spanish monarch's escapades. However, this story does add a tragic depth to the Queen's image. Behind the sparkle of her tiaras and necklaces, one could now perceive not only status, but also silent feminine suffering. They say that Victoria Eugenie's affection for jewelry was so profound that even when ill and confined to bed, she would ask for a particular set of jewels to be brought from the vault, simply to gaze upon them, drawing strength and solace from the stone's gleam. But the world, much like fashion, never stands still. And even the most majestic crowns must sometimes bow to the relentless march of time and changing tastes. What then became of this beloved work of jewelry art so cherished by the Queen? By the late 1920s, the opulent and ornate style of the Belle Époque had yielded to a new aesthetic, sleek, geometric, and daring. The Art Deco era had arrived. Long strands of pearls, clean lines, and flat bandeau-style jewels replaced voluminous garlands and towering tiaras. Queen Victoria Eugenie, always one to follow the latest trends, decided that her cherished turquoise parure needed a modern update. She had no desire to part with the stones so dear to her heart, but she wished to give them a more contemporary voice. The Anserena tiara was dismantled. It was divided into several components, allowing the central element to be worn as the fashionable bandeau of the era, a wide band typically draped low across the forehead. The Majestic necklace also underwent radical transformations. It was refashioned into a long diamond sautoir, a free-flowing chain punctuated by several turquoise medallions. The earrings, too, were lengthened to conform with the new trends for exposed necklines and short hairstyles. It is precisely at this juncture, however, that the fate of a small brooch, which some accounts suggest was also part of the original set, simply vanishes from history. Perhaps its gemstones found new life in the metamorphosis of other components. This updated, lighter, and more contemporary version of the parure can be seen in group wedding photographs of Infanta Isabel Alfonso of Spain in 1929. Queen Victoria Eugenie, standing beside the newlyweds, is adorned with precisely this transformed ensemble. She appears stylish and utterly modern, yet something of the tiara's original imperial grandeur was irrevocably lost. Yet, even this transformation wouldn't be its final act. The turquoise tiara was destined for its most dramatic and majestic rebirth yet. This grand metamorphosis unfolded during one of Spain's most turbulent periods, teetering on the brink of monarchy's collapse. As the 1930s dawned, between 1930 and 1931, Spain's political climate grew incandescent, and storm clouds gathered ominously over King Alfonso XIII's throne. It was then that Queen Victoria Eugenie decided upon an even more radical overhaul for the turquoise tiara. This time, the commission didn't go to a Spanish jeweler, but to a Parisian house, one of the titans of haute joaillerie, Chaumet. Her choice was no coincidence. Paris reigned as the capital of fashion and style, and Chaumet was renowned for crafting pieces that were aristocratic, majestic, and yet utterly contemporary. From their workshops on Place Vendôme emerged an entirely new creation. It was an Art Deco tiara, but one imbued with potent historical undertones. The jewelers fashioned a magnificent structure from platinum and diamonds, composed of 7 stylized heraldic lilies, the fleur-de-lis, interwoven with diamond ribbons. The fleur-de-lis is not merely a beautiful floral motif, it is the principal emblem of the French royal house of Bourbon, to which her husband, King Alfonso XIII, belonged by direct male lineage. In this hour of grave anxiety for the Spanish monarchy, commissioning a tiara with such a powerful dynastic symbol appeared to be a bold assertion of royal unwaveringness, a direct defiance of the looming republican threat. Most of the turquoise cabochons from the old Anserena tiara were meticulously extracted and set into the heart of each heraldic lily, creating a vivid splash of color against the dazzling sparkle of the diamonds. The new tiara was taller, more austere, and grander than its predecessors. This was not an adornment for a young princess, but for a mature queen, one who had weathered many trials and understood the true value of her crown. As for the turquoise stones that didn't find a home in the new diadem, they weren't discarded. The queen used them to create another masterpiece, a wide Art Deco bracelet commissioned from yet another legendary jewelry house, Cartier. Thus, the soul of the old parure was divided, giving life to not one, but 2 magnificent new jewels. Yet, Victoria Eugenie was not destined to long dazzle in her new tiara on Spanish soil. In April of 1931, the monarchy in Spain collapsed. King Alfonso XIII was forced to abandon his country, embarking on an exile from which he would never return. The Queen and her children followed him. What began was a long, nearly half-century odyssey across Europe. They were only able to carry their personal belongings, including the Queen's famed jewelry box. These jewels, silent witnesses to a bygone grandeur, became for her not only a poignant reminder of a lost paradise, but also a vital financial anchor during the challenging years of exile. Queen Victoria Eugenie passed away in 1969 in Lausanne, Switzerland, never witnessing the restoration of the Spanish monarchy. In her will, she meticulously distributed her legendary jewels among her children. Some of the most significant family jewels, known as the joyas de pasar, meaning jewels that must be passed on, she bequeathed to be returned to the Spanish crown upon the ascent of her grandson, Juan Carlos, to the throne. But the Chaumet turquoise tiara was not among them. It was considered the Queen's personal property and was inherited by her second daughter, Infanta Maria Cristina, Countess of Marone Cinzano. But what happens to a magnificent royal adornment when its owner lives a private life, far removed from the brilliance of courts and official receptions? What fate awaits a tiara that no one has occasion or place to wear anymore? Infanta Maria Cristina, unlike her mother, harbored no particular passion for jewelry and had no occasion to appear in such a monumental diadem. For decades, the tiara languished in a safe, transforming from a symbol of power into a silent, costly artifact. Then, in November of 1984, the Infanta decided to put the tiara up for sale. The venue was Christie's auction house in Geneva, the global capital of jewelry trading. Imagine the atmosphere of that evening. The room filled with the wealthiest collectors, jewelry dealers, and simply connoisseurs of beauty. On a velvet stand, bathed in the glow of spotlights, lay the tiara of the exiled queen. Lot number 463. The catalogue offered a dry description. A magnificent historic turquoise and diamond tiara created by the House of Chaumet circa 1930 for Her Majesty Queen Victoria Eugenie of Spain. The bidding began. The auctioneer's gavel fell, and the tiara sold for 85,000 Swiss francs, equivalent to approximately 85,000 United States dollars at the time. The buyer, as is often the case in such transactions, wished to remain anonymous. In the official press release, the buyer was vaguely described as an international collector specializing in jewels of royal provenance. The tiara's trail vanished once more, this time it seemed forever. But years later, the truth finally surfaced, and it proved even more heartbreaking than one could have imagined. The new owner, whoever they may have been, decided that the historical value of the piece was overshadowed by its commercial appeal. The main issue was the turquoise itself. This stone, being porous by nature, tends to change color over time when exposed to light, cosmetics, and even air. The sky blue cabochons, which had so perfectly suited the blonde Queen Ina, had faded over the decades, acquiring a greenish, dull hue. For the new owner, this was a defect, and he made a decision that, from the perspective of jewelry history, seems an act of pure barbarism. All the historic turquoise stones were removed from the Chaumet tiara. Their place was taken by large diamonds of impeccable clarity and cut. The tiara, without a doubt, became more expensive, brighter, more dazzling. But it lost its soul. It ceased to be that very turquoise tiara of Queen Victoria Eugenie. Its unique color palette, its connection to Edwardian-era fashion, its delicate and romantic character, all of it was erased in favor of a soulless diamond sparkle. Today, somewhere in a private collection, this jewel ghost resides, a magnificent diamond diadem in the shape of heraldic lilies. But only a few know that its platinum frame once cradled drops of frozen sky belonging to one of Europe's last great queens. And so ended the story of one of the 20th century's most unusual jewels. A story that led us through the brilliance and tragedy of a royal court, through changing eras and styles, through exile and auction rooms. It's a tale of how even the strongest metals and the hardest stones are not eternal. They live, they change, they lose and gain new meanings alongside the people to whom they belong. So, what remains of Queen Victoria Eugenie's turquoise parure? Only old, faded photographs, a ceremonial portrait, and memories. Her necklace, earrings, and first tiara were dismantled. The second tiara was stripped of its defining characteristic. Their shared fate is a stark example of how personal tastes, the whims of fashion, and life circumstances can forever alter the appearance of even the most significant historical relics. Behind every great jewel lies something far grander than mere carat weight and price. In their facets, as in a mirror, an entire era is reflected. And isn't that their true, enduring value? To be the silent keepers of human stories, passions, and destinies. Thank you for spending this time with us, delving into the world of royal treasures. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and definitely leave a comment. What other legendary jewel would you like to see featured in our next episodes? Your opinion truly matters to us. Until next time.